What's up, and welcome back to another episode of Breathing Fire, the official podcast of Beast Life brand.
That's it.
I'm your host, Fired Up Phil, and I'm here with my homeboy,
the Professor. What's going on, everybody?
We're excited to be back in the lab, cooking up another track for you of Breathing Fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And the feedback that we've gotten so far from, the new season and the episodes that we've been doing has been really positive.
Absolutely.
So that's motivating, and then we're looking forward to kind of connecting with more folks on some of these issues that we present to you guys. So
absolutely, we got a treat for them today.
Oh, I'm excited about it.
Before I get into that, though, let me give a quick shout out because I do have some Christian apparel on from a different company. So, I don't like to just sport our brand. I believe in supporting the kingdom across the board, right? So shout out to 3 Nails Apparel for sending me a dope hat. You like that?
Yeah, where's my dope hat?
It's hot, right?
It's hot. Where's my dope hat?
And on another note, I actually, I don't know. Remember we talked about being transparent?
Yeah.
I have a confession to make.
Uh-oh.
I really do. And, I have a confession to make, and I honestly, I don't know how I got here.
Okay.
I feel really embarrassed to a degree, I think. I never thought that I would be in this position in my life. I feel like I just can't overcome this, and I keep doing it.
Yeah.
I have to play pickleball.
Yo, you had me in the first half, bro. I'm like, wait a minute, do we have to go off air for this disclaimer? But I really agree with him. This dude is addicted to pickleball.
Pickleball has made it to New York.
Yeah. No, it's true.
I don't know why, but I enjoy playing it. It becomes it's one of those games that once you get into it, it starts to pull you in and you just want to keep playing. Yeah. So it's a good hobby. It's a good addiction, right?
Yeah, I'm curious, where do you guys get enough pickles?
I don't know where the name came from. But anyway, all jokes aside, my addiction to pickleball has just... I didn't know what pickleball was 5 months ago. And now I'm playing it.
It's literally sweeping over, a sweep in New York. I live in a small community about 30 minutes from here, and on the town budget, they just put a pickleball court in. Yesterday, I went to this food truck festival. Yeah, exactly. I went to this food truck festival yesterday, and they were go park by the pickleball court.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
maybe I should start playing.
You should start playing. It's good exercise.
It is, but once it starts being 1,000 degrees outside.
While we're on that note, as we get into this track and drop this, let's go. So pickleball, and then the other sport for that matter, right?
Yeah,
that gives you some form of level of activity to increase your your energy and stuff, right?
Yeah,
falls under the fitness, right?
We're
making this podcast.
And fun.
Good. Yeah. So we already got two. Fitness, fun. Obviously, we have faith. If you play with your family,
then it's family.
It's family too. So it could be right. And if you play with brothers and sisters in the faith, it could be faith building too. So you could have fun, family, faith, fitness,
and
it does offer a sense of freedom.
You're
taking your mind off of the regular cares and worries of life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Exercise is the most underused medicine.
Yeah.
It really is.
We've already got 5 of the F's in there.
Yeah.
So, if you get really good, it could be finances too. You can make money playing it. So you could actually knock out all of the F's.
There you go.
Pickleball. See
there you go.
Anyway.
I like that. Well, that's it. You guys get out there and play pickleball.
Yeah. So let's talk. I don't want to give away what we're talking about right off the gate here.
Okay, let's go.
Let's do this, right? So we have... hold on. An interesting topic for today. I think it's a hugely important topic, and it was going to require a lot of people to kind of self-assess.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I think it brings you back to it on a regular basis because it can creep in at any time.
Oh yeah, and it's very subtle.
What we're going to talk about is very subtle. We're talking today about something that God hates. And when I say hate, there's a time for love, right? There's a time for peace, there's a time for war, there's a time for love, there's a time for hate. God hates what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes, he does.
And this thing that we are talking about, it separates us from him.
Yeah.
And that's why he hates it.
Yeah.
It separates us from him. It's evil.
Diet plans. I figured it out. I figured out what it was.
Yes. No, but it is very important, just like diet plans.
That's
even
true.
more so important. And we all have it to some degree, which
Yeah.
I think makes it even that much more important, because there's some things that people struggle with. There's some things that other people don't.
Right.
This everyone has to address and has to deal with on a regular basis.
It's in us.
And if you think that you don't have it, you're lying to yourself.
Or you probably do.
You do.
Yeah.
We all do to some degree, right? This has taken the best of men and women, human, down. That would amazingly powerful people this has taken down, taken out, snuffed out, right? So I'll do the drum roll, and you can now reveal what we're talking about.
Oh,
I don't know if you've guessed it yet or not. Maybe some people have, maybe some haven't. But what is this one thing that is so vitally powerful and bad for us that takes down the best of men and women? What are we talking about here?
got a drum roll.
Oh yeah,
Pride.
Pride.
Yes.
Pride is a nasty word.
Pride is a nasty word.
Or, interestingly, I don't think people actually know the difference between, because actually there's two prides, right? Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did. So look, I am proud to be an American.
Oh, that kind of pride.
Right?
Yeah.
That pride is not bad.
No,
pride versus pride. So the pride we're talking about that's bad, we're going to address in this episode. But just to clarify, the other pride that we're talking about is like when you are taking pride in something that you're doing,
right?
Like your career, right? Like pride in being a good husband, pride in being a good father, right? Pride
that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
But the pride that we're going to get into on today's episode is not that kind of pride.
No,
it's actually the pride that God hates. That is actually bad. It's
All
evil.
right.
Okay, so let's get into that.
Let's
the
do this.
Bible has a verse. I don't know where it is. Once again, I know it's in there. I don't know where it is. Pride comes before the fall.
Pride comes before the fall. I love that.
And so that's interesting.
Proverbs 16:18.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor.
I got you.
Okay.
Fired up, Phil.
Okay. So how does pride hurt us? Let's ask that question, because I think it's important when we're chopping it up to talk in the forms of questions sometimes, because questions bring answers, right? So in laying these tracks down and just doing podcasts and conversing here, like we want to get to the root of things. We want to bring people answers that can help them and serve them in life. So how does pride affect us? How does pride hurt us, more importantly?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that there's different ways in which that happens. I think looking at it from the spiritual perspective, the fact that God hates it so much is something that automatically separates us, from God. And we've talked about sin being what separates us from God. And I think that when you're dealing with it, you look at the strong language that the Bible uses to describe pride. And in Proverbs 11:12, it says that with pride comes disgrace.
Wow.
Right? Like that is such a powerful word, disgrace. There's somebody that's disgraced.
Well, what? So with pride comes disgrace. So what do you think that means?
Well, I think that when you look at the word disgrace, right, it has an element of somebody who is an outcast, a letdown, so to speak, right?
Is it disgraceful to God?
Oh no, I'll read the verse.
Okay.
In Proverbs 11:2 says, "When pride comes, then comes disgrace." So they're neck and neck. Pride and disgrace. So when pride comes,
holding the disgrace?
Well, it comes to the individual.
Right, but it has to be held by somebody. So disgrace by other people?
No, disgrace unto yourself.
Unto yourself, but who's viewing it as the disgrace?
God is.
That's what I'm saying. Right?
God is.
So God is looking at you, me, when we act in a prideful manner.
Yeah.
He's looking at it disgracefully.
Of course, right? Of course he is.
And I'm assuming also that it probably brings, as we get into some more of these things, it brings also disgrace into our natural relationships as well.
It really does. There's something disgraceful about the idea, and I'll just give an example that we could all relate to. The whole notion of being better than someone else, right? Which is probably the example of pride that people are most familiar with.
Yes.
There is really something disgraceful about that.
Why don't we see what Google says pride is?
Let me see.
Look that up quick.
I'm going to look at that real quick.
What Wikipedia or whatever says, or the definition of pride is.
If my advisor is watching this, I am not using Wikipedia. Don't say Wikipedia.
So how does pride hurt us while you're looking at definition of? So one of the things that I started thinking and pondering, meditating on pride, I was like, you know what? Pride destroys our relationships. I think first and foremost is one of the biggest things that we have to address because it's it prevents people a lot of times like when you have a relationship, right? You did you get the definition?
It is
Okay.
interesting.
I'll let you read the definition. I'll get back to
Well,
that thing.
this is the interesting part here from dictionary.com. Got to cite my sources as a researcher. There is nothing here to suggest
It's
that
bad.
this is the only thing that
Yeah,
that
that's probably the wrong. I mean, that's not the definition that we're talking
well,
about.
no, but
So,
there's it's hidden in there, right?
okay,
So the quality of having an excessively high opinion of oneself or one's
excessively
importance.
high.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then the example is the sin of pride.
so that makes sense. So read that one more time.
Yeah, the quality of having an excessively high opinion of oneself or one's importance.
So yeah, that actually makes very good sense because like so pride. I like that definition because having such a high opinion of yourself, self righteousness, if you
Oh
will,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Self
self-righteousness.
centered, like you're that's where that definition of pride differs from the other definition of pride, which would be more like a person who values, something that they're doing, like values the
Yeah,
quality of something that they're doing, right?
right.
In this case, the pride we're talking about is the pride in which one esteems themselves higher than everybody else. It's
Yeah,
a conceited. It brings into that
yeah,
whole mindset of you're better, like you said, than other
yeah. Or
people,
even people who put
and
themselves in that same position as God.
as
I mean,
gods.
there are
There are
people out
people
there
that
who
call
literally
themselves
think,
gods.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah, like I am a God, and that's a very, very, very dangerous thing to say.
yes, absolutely.
It really is, because God doesn't share His glory with
Right,
anybody.
right. Well,
So
so how does pride hurt us? We already talked about one of the things, like you were saying, and I
yeah,
said earlier, it separates us from God,
it
right?
does. Yeah, separates us
Because
from God and
God,
man.
it's disgraceful in God's
Hmm.
eyes. And when you look into the word and stuff, you'll realize that when people are prideful, right? God does. There's a distance there
There is a
because
distance.
God, the door of pride, when someone has pride, it literally like closes the door to the Holy Spirit. It
It
closes the
does.
door to relationship,
It
right, with
does.
God. And so that's obviously a bad thing. That's one of the relationships that it destroys, but it also destroys our relationships in the natural.
It really
It destroys the
does.
relationship with your husband, your wife, your spouse, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. It could destroy the relationship with your kids,
Yeah.
relationship with even friends, with people that you might be doing. It prevent you from doing deals in business with people and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And so, like, why? What? Like, let's break that down a little bit deeper. Like, what is that thing about pride that is so destructive? It it allows you, or it doesn't allow you in your relationship, the room for there to be, a lot of times two sides. Like
Yeah.
it's a one-sided conversation. It's a one-sided opinion.
Right.
It's a person who never believes that they're wrong, right?
Yeah. I think the worst part of that, to your question, is that it makes us feel as though we have no need for God.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the most dangerous part of pride, right? It makes us think that we are above God's gift of salvation, that we are above any of the gifts of the Spirit, that we are above any type of godly direction because we know better,
Right.
you know?
Absolutely.
So yeah. So when you're talking about that, the dangers, there are some that are subtle. And I think that one, in my opinion, is the most dangerous one, but the most
Yeah.
subtle because nobody ever says, I mean, I'm sure some people do, but for the most part, prideful people don't necessarily say, I don't need God, but everything that they do
Read that
speaks to that.
definition again.
We're trying from Google. I
Yeah.
think, all right, let me see.
The one
So,
you're so highly you think so
yeah,
highly of
the quality
yourself.
of having an excessively high opinion of oneself or one's
Yeah.
importance.
And so that mindset, right? When you have that belief is more the proper word for it, right? When you have that belief, you are now in a position to where, let's just say it, it's going to affect all the areas of your life and all the decisions you make.
100%.
Let's say you have, you're struggling with something, whatever that something may be. It could be, what we talked about an addiction before. It could be an addiction to drugs or alcohol or to food or to any other
Or
addiction,
anything,
anything,
yeah.
right? But now pride gets in the way, and that you think so highly of yourself that you're not willing to
Yeah.
be able to admit that you have a problem. So now you can't
Right.
even seek help, right? Maybe your marriage is falling apart, or your parenting, or your relationship with your kids is falling apart, or whatever, right? And pride is preventing you from, being able to admit and self-assess
Yeah.
that you are part of the problem,
Right.
because pride says it's
That's deep.
always the other person. It's so it's the new narcissism stuff that's all going around, right? I mean,
Right.
like ultimately it's pride,
Right.
right? It's these things that come in that make you think that you're the shit.
Yeah.
Everybody else
Well,
isn't.
it's true. There, narcissism definitely has a component of pride for sure. And it's just that I love what you said about how it keeps us from getting the help that we need.
Yes.
And whether it's spiritual help, whether it's help with an addiction, whether it's help with anything,
Yes.
stubbornness, pride. I don't need this. I could do this on my own,
Yes.
and we have seen it, manifest itself through our society. Maybe we've seen it manifest itself in us
Yes.
in many, many different ways. So it really is important to make sure that we do that self-assessment, like you
Yes.
mentioned in the beginning.
Because we all have a level of pride or esteem
Yeah.
inside of us
Yeah.
that we need to always keep in check, because if we don't, we'll miss out where it's hindering us in the areas of our lives. And to some people it's so obvious. It's like, yo, you when you're around somebody who's just like mad arrogant and
Yeah.
egotistical and like prideful, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that person has a major pride issue, right?
Oh yeah. It's
But
evident.
sometimes, many times, what I think people don't understand is that there are very quiet people, very introverted people who don't come off like that at all.
Right.
That struggle a lot with pride.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't reveal it the same way that it's
Interesting.
typically revealed, right?
Interesting.
There are some people that are very quiet, and it's not that they don't struggle with pride. It's just that they're not willing to be so expressive about it, because they're kind of hiding it behind other insecurities that they have and stuff. And interestingly enough, like those people sometimes might even be harder for them to, troubleshoot it and see where it's really affecting them. Because,
Yeah.
like I've acted prideful, before. And anybody who says that they haven't, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Because we've all acted in
We've all
some
done
manner
so.
of pride, which is esteeming yourself, higher than you ought to be, and being wrong and not admitting that you were wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Pride, it prevents forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Pride doesn't allow people to forgive, because, well, what are you saying? Like, well, why should I have to forgive them? You're
Right.
esteeming yourself to a level where that person doesn't deserve forgiveness.
Yeah.
Of course they do.
Yeah. Pride is a sign of a foolish individual.
Yes.
When that's at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
Yes.
And God keep us from being fools.
Yes.
That's definitely not something that we aspire to be. So in order to not do that, we do have to take a look at the areas in which we are foolish and the areas in which we are deficient,
Yes.
and address them. It's not just, saying, "Oh man, this is what I'm doing," but pride is a condition of the heart, which makes it really, really hard to detect. Like you said, somebody could be prideful and you wouldn't even know it, because we can't see what's in the heart.
Right.
God can.
Absolutely.
God can. We can't see that.
Some people are, right, more outgoing, and sometimes more masked.
Yeah.
Sometimes people mask it and it appears as confidence, until you get to know them more, and then you
Yeah.
realize that's not confidence, that's pride.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is, it's something to, the purpose of this episode is to try to reveal what pride is,
Yeah.
bring awareness to pride, and to bring the awareness that everybody has it to some degree.
Yeah.
And it's something that you always want to just self-assess and take a look at, right? Because
Yeah.
that's going to ultimately open the door for more opportunity for you and more success in all the areas of your life if you make sure that your pride is not, and look, man, if you're out there and you're saying, like, I want to turn this episode off right now because I don't have a problem with pride, I don't struggle with pride, you're the one who probably needs to keep it on. Like, seriously, because
Yeah.
whenever it's one of those topics that whenever you talk about it, it's important.
Yeah.
Because everybody has to deal with it and struggles to some degree
In some
with it,
capacity.
in some capacity. So
Yeah.
it's always a good reminder whether or not you're struggling it like this with it, or
Right.
whether or not you've got it, good in control and you're, aware. But it's like talking about forgiveness. Like, of course, that's just an important topic, right?
Yeah.
Pride is such an important topic to understand. So
And it's an uncomfortable one.
it's an uncomfortable.
It is, especially
If
when
you're prideful.
yeah, exactly. It's uncomfortable when someone challenges you with that. I don't know if you remember that story that I told you when I think it was like last semester or 2 semesters ago
Okay.
when we were doing the peer editing, and my teacher called me out
Okay.
because I was like, "Do I really have to take these
Yes.
suggestions
Yes.
into account?"
Yes.
And my
Good
teacher,
example.
yeah, my teacher literally told me, "You know what? Sometimes you just, and not so many words, pretty much, you gotta humble yourself."
So you're for a doctorate,
Yeah.
and you're like, well, what do I need? I already know this. Right? Why?
Yeah, I
I'm
think.
strong in this, right?
Yeah, I think my reaction definitely came from a place of pride because I do pride myself in the good way, right? There's that contrast there.
Yes.
I pride myself in the good way of being an academic, of being a good writer. So when I have somebody that's literally tearing my writing apart, I'm just like, nah,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
But after my professor, whom I love dearly, kind of brought that to my attention, I was able to take a look back and reflect, and then you called me out on it too.
Yeah.
You called me out on it too, which is what brethren are supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
If you have somebody that lets you get away with your stuff and doesn't call you out, they might not be as much your brethren as you think they are. But nevertheless, yeah, we all have it.
Yeah, we do all have it. And that's going to bring us into our topic of closing here.
Yeah.
There's two sides of this, right? Mm-hmm. So whenever we talk about something that God hates, it's like, well, okay, well, what does God love?
Yeah.
Right? So God is love, right?
Yes,
love
he
is
is
the opposite of hate, right?
Yes, it is.
War is the opposite of peace, right? These are just opposites. So their pride has an opposite too. And it's something that God loves. And it's something that on the opposite side, where pride closes the door to God coming close and moving in your life, this trait opens the door and literally invites God's presence into your life.
Yes.
And that is humility.
Yes.
Right? Humility is the opposite in contrast, the polar opposite, so to speak, of pride.
Yeah.
And a humble person is somebody who is going to have all the doors of opportunity and everything open to them, because humility is such a beautiful state of, I don't want to call it a state of mind, but it's a belief, right? That you're not, it's in that definition, like when you esteem yourself so high, humility doesn't say that there you have to be careful with humility, because humility shouldn't be mistaken for timidity, or
Right.
shouldn't be mistaken for a low self-esteem,
Or being a doormat.
But it's
Correct.
just it's understanding that you're not esteeming yourself to a height where you can't learn, you can't have all of these things work out in your life, because you're humble enough, because so you've accepted that you have room to grow.
Right.
You've accepted that you have all of these areas in which humility can be a teacher to allow you to be able to move forward.
Yeah, it's understanding that that I am constantly working to become the whole of
Yeah.
myself. You know, when you think that there is no more to become, I think that's when it hits you,
Yeah.
right? But when you constantly recognize that, hey, like I'm literally just a speck in the universe here.
Yes.
You know, like,
Yes.
you know, I there's things that are so much bigger than I out there. You know, God being at the forefront of it all, obviously. But I think it's when we allow ourselves to believe that we're done growing.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the big things that pride prevents and hurts us with,
Yeah,
right? It hurts personal growth
it does.
because you stop learning because you think that you know more than the correction or that the improvement,
Hmm.
right? Like, and anybody who's involved in sports or anything like that, like, coaches and teams will always look to draft people who have humility, not people who are prideful, because prideful people become they're not all uncoachable, but they're not going to grow and learn as much because
Right.
they're not willing to take that correction, like somebody who has
That
humility
is
is.
true.
What does the Bible say about all of this? I mean, there's lots of different verses. You know, uh, Pride coming before the fall, we said, right? One of my favorite verses is in Proverbs says, "Let a man become a fool to think he's wise."
Mm,
Like when you actually think about that, like
yeah,
that keeps me humble all the time. Let a man become a fool to think that he's wise. So the minute that you think
I love
you're
that.
so smart, you're a fool.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just a reminder that we're supposed to constantly be learning, constantly be growing. And our
Yeah.
faith is a faith of personal growth.
It is, yeah. And I want to just highlight again what you said in the beginning. There is nothing wrong with being proud of yourself, right? There's nothing wrong with recognizing that you are smart. You know, there's nothing wrong with recognizing your accomplishments, right? But when those things put you in a position where you now think that you are better than others, or now you think that you can no longer grow, that's when it becomes problematic in real time. And then, right, and spiritually speaking,
Right.
that's what keeps you separate
Right.
from what God has for us.
Absolutely. What other verses we got to talk about? I
Man,
think
there's
there's
a
an
lot
interesting
here.
here. The
There's a
Bible
lot.
says okay, here's one. First Peter, be clothed with humility, for God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that He may exalt you in due time.
I love
Right?
that.
That's a really powerful verse, right?
I love that.
So, be clothed in humility. Well, that's a lot of humility. That means God
Had
loves
to, yeah,
humility, right?
yeah.
And God resists the proud, like we talked about before. Pride keeps you. If like, man, like I don't know about you, but I love the presence of God in my life.
Me too.
Like I love when I see God moving
Me
and
too.
operating right
Me
in my
too.
life.
Love
And
that.
if some of you out there, I mean, you know exactly what we're talking about. So you're like, yeah, absolutely. It's when God starts working, and it's like the best adventure ever,
Yeah.
right? You're like, I'm literally in this, partnership here with with this divine creator,
No, literally.
right?
Yeah.
Literally, that is interacting in my life and wants to have it, is leading me and guiding me and communicating with me.
That's really amazing
That
to think
is
about.
the greatest adventure that you'll ever go on, right? When you start to develop that. And a lot of people understand it. And then, we're making this podcast because a lot of people don't understand it.
Right.
And we want them to be able to, jump into that adventure and
Right.
be able to experience, what it's like to have God move in their life. And pride will always keep that away from you.
It will.
And humility. And just on that note, most people, just like God resists the proud, but the proud resist God because, like you said before, they esteem
Yeah.
themselves so highly that they don't think that they need God.
Right.
They esteem themselves to the point where they don't think that they're a bad person. They haven't done that much wrong. What do I need to, this whole sin thing? And we can get into all that, but we're not going to, go deep on that today. But pride is the reasoning behind why people reject and resist God
Yeah.
and esteem themselves above needing a savior, esteem themselves above needing to repent, right? And all of these things that, we talk about and God showed us in His Word.
Yeah.
So humility, as we close here, is what's up.
Yeah. No, it is, man. It is. Being humble allows for God to do what it is that He wants with us, which is always going to be better than what we want for ourselves.
Yeah.
And allows God to guide us and ultimately leading us to the precise place where He wants us to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're watching, I think it's kind of cool to just take a look at and self-assess yourself, and we end up on different levels of this at different seasons in our life, but it's always good to kind of have that pride humility level,
Right.
and see, you want to be, we'll put pride on the bottom because it's bad, and we'll put humility on the top,
Okay.
right?
I like that.
Because it's good.
Yeah.
So you want to be,
And you say humility is what's up.
it was what's up.
Get it?
That's right. So we want to look at it and be like, hey man, am I like walking in humility?
Yeah.
Or has some things happened in my life? Am I going through some troubles? Am I going through some obstacles in my relationships and stuff like that? That's testing my character and causing me to, be more prideful than I want to be, right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's what happens. Like when you go through tests and trials, that's when all of these character things come out, right? Where are you really?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like those are the things to kind of take a look at. Where are you in your relationship with your kids when it comes to humility and pride?
Yeah.
Do you not give your kids room to speak? Do you not give them, an opportunity to express? Because I was there.
Yeah.
I had to work my way out of that big time. Like I didn't get it.
Right,
I was
right.
making errors in big time, and I was acting in pride with that relationship. So
Yeah.
you take that and you look at it, and maybe it's not the relationship with your kids for you. Maybe it's a relationship with somebody that you're partnered with in business,
Right.
or maybe it's a relationship that you have with your spouse, right? Or it could be a multitude of different relations, but you can take each one of those areas and kind of judge that against your pride and your humility level. You always want to be humble.
Yeah, you
Because
do.
humility will allow your relationships to get stronger, to grow, to be better, right? Whereas pride causes division in your relationships. Pride
Yes, it
destroys
does.
the team.
Yes, it does.
And so, yeah, those are some practical things that I think are helpful to be able to do in our lives, in each areas of the different relationships that we have and stuff. So,
It's a weakest link in the chain.
yeah, absolutely.
So, no, that was good. I hope you guys really, really think about and meditate on what we discussed today. As always, we love to hear your comments. Reach out to us, get in touch with us, find us on Facebook. Where?
Yeah. Don't be too prideful too to make those comments. Humble yourself.
Humble yourself. Humble yourself. Yeah. Follow us on
yeah, follow us
Facebook,
on
The Lions
Facebook.
Tribe of Kings.
Yep, and then just go to beastlife.com and you can learn all about what we're doing. And we'll see you when we drop the next track.
We'll see you next week,
of
folks.
Breathing Fire. Peace out and God bless. Don't be prideful. Elevate your level of humility and have a blessed day.